allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. I will call the meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda, Jeff?
Josh is here to give a solid waste update, and I don't know where you'd want to put that in the agenda, but
Let's see. Well, he's usually right after county employee recognition and highway. Should we stick him in there right after that? Okay. Is that okay, Corey, if we put him before you?
oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Tom moves,
I'll second.
and Steve seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
Kristen Fake, address 25163, County 25, Akeley. I'm here regarding the Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting last night. Quorum of County Board Commissioners was at that meeting in violation of the open meeting law. Commissioner Van Kampen was there because he is the commissioner to the HRA. Commissioner Steve Kiernan was there because he no longer has a representative. But I'm curious why Charlene Christensen was there and fulfilled that
Member
quorum.
of the public, and I stated that at the beginning of the meeting, I was not there as a commissioner.
That still violated the open meeting law because there were 3 commissioners at a public meeting that the public was not notified was going to happen. So I'm going to request that all HRA discussion be tabled today until the public can be notified of this violation and its possible repercussions.
The
Thank you.
HRA board is a publicly noticed meeting and is open to all members of the public. It is not a violation to have a quorum at such a meeting.
Thank you.
The law begs to differ.
Anyone else for public comment? All right. Consent agenda, does anybody want to pull anything? Okay, then I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, Ted moves,
I'll second.
Dave seconds, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Oh, there you are, Mike. Do you want to come up for employee recognition, please?
Good morning. So in the Auditor Treasurer's office, we have Skylar Castning, Deputy Auditor Treasurer, began the full-time position on February 26, 2024. In the Sheriff's Office, Lynn Kramer, Dispatcher Jailer, is recognized for service from July 18th, 2014 to March 30th of 2024. And Amalia Richards, the Dispatcher Jailer, began the full-time position on March 13th, 2024.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome to everyone. Okay. Come on up, Josh.
All right, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
There's just a few things I wanted to update you on. I'll try to keep it pretty quick. First one is just with our 9-county hub and spoke project. It's been a while since I brought that forward with you guys, so I just wanted to give you an update. On March 5th, John Steiner with Polk County and Dan Hecht with Clearwater County and myself went down for SWA Day on the Hill. SWA is a solid waste organization under AMC. And we were able to meet with 8 area legislators that represent our 9 counties. We had 4 senators, Senator Utke, Senator Green, Senator Eichhorn, and Senator Johnson, who's the minority leader, and then 4 representatives, Davis, Bliss, Burkle, Grossel. And then we were gonna meet with Representative Knutson, but we had a late cancellation on there. So Generally, we had about 15 minutes with the legislators. We were able to get them up to speed on our project, kind of lay out the importance of it for us as our region, and also the importance of it for the state as well. So overall, I think the meetings went well. Senator Utke and Representative Knutson are going to be authoring our bill, which is still in the process of being drafted. It's been at the revisor's office for a while. And hopefully we get that out really soon. It's kind of complex with having 9 counties involved and a mix of cash funds required and bonding funds required, so it's taken a little bit of time at the revisor's office. And then, with the session now, this week with the deadlines coming up, I think, after this week, the next week, it'll start shifting more towards infrastructure projects, so hopefully we'll gain some traction there, so. I just remind you, if you have meetings with legislators coming up, it's always good to kind of mention our project and keep that on their radar there. Going down to the Capitol was interesting, seeing all the people fighting for, 15 minutes of time with the different legislators, so it's important, I think, to keep highlighting our project. We've also been looking for other funding opportunities that could assist with our hub and spoke project. The MPCA outlined several grants, smaller type grants that they're going to have coming up over the next year. So we're going to continue meeting as a region to try to target some of them grants to kind of be able to pull some of the pieces maybe out of our hub and spoke project and get some of the smaller things taken care of before general or total funding would be in place. So. And then the EPA also has grant funding available that's been coming up lately that we might be able to target as well. Last year we applied for the Swiffer grant, which we weren't successful in obtaining. A lot of that went to heavy metropolitan areas, but there might be another round of that. And then also we were thinking about applying for a climate pollution reduction grant from the EPA. Which could have had a major impact with our project, but I think the prioritization with the MPCA was more towards air permit regulations and air permit reduction activities, so we kind of found out just at the last minute it's not going to be worth applying for that. So, but we're still looking through all these opportunities and what's available for funding, so. I am also going to start working on some additional modeling, at our north transfer station, that being a possible, regional site to just kind of plan out for what, long-term future expansion needs could be. So we'll be working with our consultant with that, so. And that's kind of what I had for the 9-county update. Is there any questions on that portion of it, or? And then, real quickly, I just was going to highlight our Solid Waste Advisory Board meeting. Ted and I attended that last week. Like most of the meetings we have, there was some highs and lows presented from that meeting. In 2023, the garbage and recycling going to Foston was down around 2%. Hubbard was down, just our county specifically was down less than 1%. Waste going to the landfill was up 9.5%. And Hubbard was up about 10%. So I think overall, you look at the system as a whole, it was about steady for the material coming in. Recycling markets were down quite a bit in 2023, which negatively impacted the budget. But I think on a positive note, they kind of started to rebound towards the end of the year and going into the first few months in 2024, sales are going a lot better. Steam sales kind of followed that similar path. 2023 they were down, but in 2024 they started to look a lot better. And there's a lot of stuff to look forward to and a lot of good changes. They've been able to get up to staffing levels finally that they're looking for. They've been able to install some robots for doing some sorting on the recycling lines and have some future possibilities as well to increase robot use as well that could hopefully will lead to us being able to accept a few different types of recycling and additional types of recycling and be able to advertise and to market for that, so. The landfill in Gently, one big thing, they've been working on obtaining landfill wetland permits at their facility for, I think, over 5 years. They're finally able to get all them permits issues resolved. And so they are able to do construction, which is needed this year to be able to keep taking our landfill waste that goes to Gently. There are major costs gonna be coming in with this wetland mitigation work with the permitted construction, and then also a major shortfall for the budget at the county, or the Polk County landfill, due to the fact that Becker County was not bringing in roughly 10,000 tons of waste into the Polk County system this year. They kind of in the last minute had changed their plans and has the potential to impact, the budget at the landfill, which, in turn, Polk County is reviewing to see if that's gonna impact everyone's tip fees going to the facility. So as a, result of all these different costs, we might be looking at having to have a adjustment to the tipping fee for yet this year in 2024, and then next year in 2025 as well, but we don't know that for sure yet, so we'll see how that shakes out for budgets, and then I'll keep you updated on that, so. And lastly, I just wanted to mention, with part of this whole project, one important aspect of this is gonna be biochar, and that's something hopefully we can start moving on sooner rather than later, which is gonna be taking our clean lumber, clean wood waste, like pallets, 2x4s, things like that, and our brush, to be able to shred, chip that, and hopefully turn that into a product called biochar, which is pretty much a charcoal type media that can be used as a soil amendment. So there's a lot of potential, a lot of interest with private and public partnerships, and we'll be hopefully exploring that soon, this year and beyond. So that's kind of what I wanted to update you on. The only other thing was just there's a couple legislative bills, product stewardship bills, one with packaging and one with our e-waste, electronic waste recycling, moving through committees. Not sure if they'll meet the deadlines this year, but, that type of bills most of the time have a positive impact on us as they help to offset some of our local costs, so. That's what I had.
How's the reuse coming along? I wanna go in there and just walk around and look, see what's all there, but how's it coming?
The reuse has been really busy. I think, we're working out some of the kinks, still got some things to work out yet, but, I think some of the busiest days, there's been over 350 people going through just the reuse facility. I think that's one of the things that was, maybe didn't anticipate it being quite so busy, so managing that and staffing that will, be some of the challenges we gotta get through, so. But overall, I think it's been good, and we should have some good numbers to kind of show what we're able to divert from waste disposal, so.
And residents are just bringing in these items, dropping them off, and
Yep.
thank you.
There's quite a variety. I walked through it last week. I was really surprised at all the things that were in there.
Yeah. So.
Are you still taking like pesticides, herbicides and things like that year round, or is it just kind of a seasonal?
Yeah, I mean, for residents of the county, they can, at the south station in Park Rapids, we take household hazardous waste year round. And at the north, it's, just spring, so I'll be starting in the middle of April here, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then businesses, businesses have to work directly through Becker County. We don't take any of that stuff from businesses.
All right.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Good morning. First agenda item today is to review and approve 14 timber appraisals for an April 8th, 2024 timber auction. The resource managers of the NRN department surveyed 14 tracts of timber for an auction scheduled for April 8th, beginning at 9 a.m. here at the courthouse. The 14 tracts contain an estimated total of 11,587 cords of aspen, pine, birch, oak, maple, spruce, and other species. The total appraised value of the timber is estimated at $312,784.68. This is about $530 per acre appraised, and it'll get bid up from that point. So, just looking for approval to approve the auction and the 14 tracts of timber. And there was no landline disputes on these, and it seemed like everything went well this time around.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Ted moves, do you want a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on, Corey, I got a quick question for you. Because of the winter that we had, are you having to extend some of the logging? Or were people able to get it off?
Pretty much, we're pretty much caught up. No one really had any sales that were expiring, so
Okay.
there might be one or two that will be expiring in April that we'll look at case by case basis. But
Okay.
yeah, not much to extend, so we got pretty lucky there. Let's see. Next item is to review and approve a resolution to convey tax forfeited parcels to the city of Akeley for a public use as outlined in Minnesota Statute 282.01 subdivision 1A. The city of Akeley has written us a letter to withdraw these two parcels from the auction to have them conveyed to the city for public use, including a police department offices, administrative offices, and a parking area for the building. So there's two parcels. One parcel is the old Blue Ox building. The other parcel is just a parking lot, so it worked out well where we could convey both of them to the city for public use there, so.
Josh, I just had a question in how it reads on the agenda. Free of charge besides recording fees, building and lot cleanup fees. So do you guys make sure the lot and the buildings are cleaned up prior?
Yeah, so it's blighted. It was happened before I was here, but it was kind of a mess in there, and we had the STS crew clean out the building for us, and we got a bill for that, and that bill was what we would
Okay,
charge the city of Akeley. It's $4,913 for that bill. So, and they seemed like they were okay with that.
I have a question that's probably for Jeff, and it would apply to this one and the ones to the city of Park Rapids, is that, with pending legislation on tax forfeited land, does the city of Akeley assume those responsibilities if they have to go and pay for them?
At this point, we're under the existing rules. So if it's conveyed for a public purpose and there's no revenue in excess of the costs, of the forfeited cost, there wouldn't be any revenue that would go to that previous owner. If that makes sense. What the ruling has said is that if a forfeited property sells for more than they owed, then they would be due that. And in this case, we're transferring it for a public use, so there is no sale price. So there would be no money in excess of the sale. And the way that it was forfeited, I'm not even sure when it was forfeited, but based on what I'm hearing through the county administrator or county attorney's office and through the County Administrators Association, the look back for us is going to be 2016. This forfeited 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, it wasn't too long
Pretty
ago.
recently, so.
I was wondering if it wasn't long on this one.
And so the taxes owed would weigh out costs. I mean, free conveyance, so, yeah, there would be no giving back to the previous owner, I don't think anyways, so.
The argument is simply that we couldn't financially benefit from managing that tax forfeited property, and there won't be any financial management or benefit in this case.
okay, a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Dave moves to approve.
I'll second.
Steve seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is to review and approve a written request by Hubbard County for the conveyance of tax forfeited property for future economic development and pay full market value for the property. The Hubbard County has requested to the NRM department that we withhold parcel 7.08.03010 north of the railroad tracks near Potlatch in northern Hubbard County for future economic development. The parcel would be purchased at full market value and as an authorized use by supporting the local tax district. They would pay, the county appraised market value that they would pay is $49,687. And I'm just looking for approval to hold that. And I guess one more thing is just that we consult with our county attorney to make sure that we're following statutes and guidelines that we should be doing, so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ted moves. I'll second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Lastly, another request from the city of Park Rapids to withhold parcels from the April 5th auction, land auction, for future economic development or public use. The city has requested that Hubbard County withdraw 7 forfeited parcels from the land auction. And as Minnesota statute 282.01 subdivision 1A, the parcels can be conveyed at no cost to the city if the intent is for a public use. If the parcel is to be used for future economic development, the parcels must be sold at full market value. And I'm looking for approval to withhold them from the sale for up to 6 months.
Do they plan on using all of these for economic development?
You know what, Jeff might have more info on this, but I believe they're for,
These are all residential parcels. The intent, I believe, at this point in time is to work with HLDC and other partners to build houses and then sell them and return these parcels to the tax rolls.
Well, one of them is the corner of Western Avenue and 34. That might be commercial
Yeah,
property.
there's an economic development interest in that parcel, yep.
Okay. I said, it'd be nice to get back on the tax rolls, especially, I've identified at least 2 of them that,
Yep.
that would, to me, would be the preferred route.
Yep.
So if the city can't do that, then we need to get them back and try to do it.
Yeah, and so this request is to hold them for 6 months for them to solidify their plans for all these parcels and determine, depending on the type of housing or as I understand, they can be conveyed for less than market value to remediate blight or to deal with
affordable housing too.
affordable housing. That was the term I was looking for. Thanks,
Yep.
Corey. So if they're developed for those lines, then the lots can be conveyed for no cost, which helps to make those properties affordable housing. And then if they're used for another future economic development use, then they would have to identify that and they'd have to pay for them.
One of them's on Birch Court. That's a nice area there. I can't imagine that hadn't already been sold and.
Some of these have been on our list as over the counter since 2016, so it will be nice if they can get some use out of them.
I didn't look up all the specials. Did you look up the specials? That might be why they haven't sold.
I didn't see those, no.
Yep, there are some assessments tied to them. Yep.
So either a plan to develop these, to convey the deeds and develop these will develop in the next 6 months, or they'll be returned and then essentially they'll be over the counter then again?
We'll have to offer them at public
We'll have
auction.
to offer them again.
So we'll
Okay.
probably offer them at the fall auction if nothing.
Well, that satisfies the concerns I've had on, yeah.
Yeah, the intent is to return these to housing and taxable parcels. Yep.
Okay, good.
Board wishes?
Well, I'll move to approve.
Okay, Tom moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Dave seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. And just an update, timber harvesting's going pretty well. The weather's kind of acting a little weird, but Guys are still getting their wood out of the woods, and roads are, we close a lot of our roads for seasonal. You know, they get soft in the spring, and we'll hopefully open them up back in a month or something, a couple weeks to a month.
Somebody asked me this question. Can ATVs be on any of the trails?
Technically, snowmobile trails, they can't be on until April 1st,
Okay,
but yeah, that's
so the other county trails they can?
legally, yes. Yep. If they're marked, unless they're marked closed.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
okay. Thanks, Corey.
Yep, thank you guys.
Come on up, Corey. Joe, you wanna come with?
I don't ask for this much money without backup, so. All right. First thing on my agenda, requesting approval for the Lakes Area SWAT Mutual Aid Agreement. And what this is an agreement, kind of an operations agreement by our ERU team, which consists of us and Wadena County and now Becker County as well, and then a couple of police departments, you know, as well. And this was approved by the county attorneys in each jurisdiction, and it's a brand-new agreement, and it's something that, you know, went through MCIT on it and got, you know, some recommendations on it, and so it was presented to the board for approval.
Corey, when I read through, I had a question because Becker doesn't have any cities represented where the other counties do. So if you actually went into Becker, do you think police departments from some of their towns and cities would join you, or?
No, we don't take non-ERU officers into a situation. It's only people that are part of the team. So for example, say the city of Detroit Lakes, you know, had an issue where they needed the ERU team. You know, the group would assess the situation. If it meets the threshold, it would be up to their sheriff to decide if you know, it's in Becker County.
Right.
You know, so they would just go in and the group would go in and handle the issue, you know, and without actual members of the police department.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for Corey?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so Dave moved, Ted seconds, further discussion? All those, did you have something, Tom?
I was about ready to say aye when you're
Okay.
ready.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, second, last year I submitted 2 quotes for a radar trailer, a speed monitoring trailer. The low quote was approved. We purchased the item. It showed up this winter, and it was delivered to the highway department. And when we received it, it was damaged. So we made a claim with the company, and they filed a claim with the shipper. They looked at it and says, well, somebody from the highway department signed it. They refused to make any repairs, and it was a very unfortunate thing. So they took the trailer back and wouldn't make good on it. They didn't want to accept any responsibility. And I know the employee from the highway department did not damage it. My crew did not damage it. It's something that we couldn't get resolved. So we never paid for it. You know, they just came and got it. So this was donated dollars specific for this project by the Wolfpack Baseball Club. And so I'm bringing you those quotes again for approval with actually the quote for the custom signals model. And so we're going to use, it's roughly $12,000 that was donated for this project, and then the balance will be taken out of federal equitable sharing dollars. So there's no county tax levy dollars needed for this project at all.
Did you have to pay anything down to MPH?
What's that?
Did you have to pay anything down to
Nothing.
MPH?
We have no money invested in that at all. Yeah.
So did you say that, did the company take the damaged unit back?
Yep, they came and
No
picked it
issues?
up.
Okay, good.
Yep,
And custom signals is still the same price.
yep.
And I'm assuming the damage on the trailer was more than $3,000?
No. Well, it's hard to say. It was a bunch of scratches and some dents on the top. And, you know, probably from shipping. And, but it's hard to say. Some of them had already formed rust over
okay.
top of where the paint came off, so I know for a fact it wasn't our people or the highway department people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they were gracious enough to use, you know, their skid steer with the forks to unload it, cause it comes shipped on a pallet, you know, and, no, I submitted photos and we just couldn't get together on a resolution, and so it's like, so they came and got it.
Yeah, if it was in a pallet, kinda hard to damage it.
But, and when we got it though, the pallet was busted up, so there was all kinds of red flags on what happened. So, and it's wrapped in cellophane, I mean, we didn't do any damage to it. And like I say, it was already rusted over, so
Yeah.
it had been damaged for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Board wishes?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so Tom and Steve, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, third, part of our emergency response unit is composed of our armored vehicle, the MRAP. And we have a ram on the front of that for breaching barricades. And at times, the team, and we've had to do it multiple times historically, you have to put gas into a building. And the options are, you know, one of the team members has to approach the building and bust a window out and deploy gas. Well, they make a gas deployment system that goes on the end of the ram for the armored vehicle that we have. And this is all about, it's not about needing a new toy, it's all about officer safety. No longer does a vulnerable officer have to approach that building. And if we have to put gas in a building, there's something bad that is happening. And now it goes on the end of the ram, and it actually deploys from the end of that ram. So you don't even, the driver drives up to it, puts a hole either in the window or the door or whatever type of hole, and it shoots the gas inside of it. So there's 2 quotes attached for this. We did budget for this in our '24 budget. And so I'm asking approval of the gas deployment system from Swap Mod out of St. Cloud for the price of $12,715. And it'd be coming out of our budgeted ERU fund.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Dave moves,
I'll second.
Tom seconds, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, the final item I have is, this has been the topic of discussion for a while now. We finally settled on a particular unit after a few people, Joe and Scott, went and actually visited a couple of jails. But we're looking at approving the quote for a body security, scanner for the jail. And there's, as you'll see, there's 2 quotes attached. One of them is, the one we're looking for is unfortunately the more expensive one, but it has a lot of, benefits to it. It's far more compact. We can move it around. It can fit through any standard door. We physically can move it, hook it up. It has a better software program, and it's just an all-around, better unit for our situation. The dollars of this is going to come out of the capital improvement dollars, and so we would ask for approval of from Linev Systems out of Texas for $172,665. If you have any specific questions, Joe can certainly answer them for you as far as the details. He physically saw the unit that we're looking
What's
at.
the expected life of this unit?
I don't know that they have a lifespan. I mean, I've never heard that there was a lifespan on them. I would assume, like in an airport, they upgrade their scanners every once in a while, just as new technology comes out. That would probably be what you're looking at, but there's not a expiration date on it.
Yeah, I don't think these are like, your typical, like a computer where they
No.
simply need upgrading after a few years, from what I've seen on them, so. And again, this is one of those things that you wish you didn't have to do, But in this day and age, and we have had so many issues with people smuggling fentanyl and other drugs into our jail, if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be discussing this. But we've had people, you know, they put them in body cavities that we can't physically search without a reason, and they get into the jail, you don't know it, and then in a few days, you know, a whole wing of that jail is high and having overdoses on fentanyl. We've had it, and this is simply one of those things that will help our staff combat that.
So this will be able to screen something hidden in a plastic container or anything
Yes.
like that?
Yep.
You know, it takes training and it takes time to be able to detect those things, but if it's in like a balloon or something, they're harder to detect. But as Corey talked about, the software that comes with the scanner that we're looking at, it does a real good job in picking that out and saying, hey, you better look at this. It outlines it in red or blue or one of the different colors. And like Corey said, it's not the end all be all. We're not going to catch everything even with a scanner, but we got to do what we can to keep the drugs out of the jail.
Would this, would other, well, first of all, go back here. So if you detect something in a body cavity, do one of your officers then take search, or is it go to the hospital? Or-
We would typically take them to the hospital,
Okay.
and then it would be removed
Okay.
up there. Yep.
And then, I'm assuming if it's a weapon or something, you might be able to identify that in the screening, and if it was a weapon,
Anything with like a right angle or something that just isn't normal, something you wouldn't see like a square or a triangle or just even like a straight line, that's not something that's normally in a body. So you're going to be able to detect that kind of thing very easy.
okay. And then, would other people or organizations in the area have a use for it too? Maybe, I'm just thinking about with Northwest Juvenile, they've at times have had to take a resident to one of these body scanners, and I'm just wondering if it's something would be similar. I don't know who.
You mean to like borrow?
Would it be like, say Park Rapids Police Department, they bring somebody over to walk through the scanner, or however it's used?
Well, it would certainly have to be an in-custody type of person.
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't, because this would be in the secure confinements of the jail, it would have to be somebody that has been placed under arrest. You know, we wouldn't take, you know, somebody off the street just to,
Just to check them out?
no. But, you know, if there was a legal basis for, I'm certainly would be willing for any neighboring agency
Okay.
to be able to, you know, do that. No, we're not opposed to that. They just have to technically be under arrest.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep.
And this is part of that 180,000 in the capital improvements?
Correct. This was identified for that purpose.
Yep.
Would there be any other costs, do you think, associated with this? Or, I know it looks like it's got training and all this other kind of stuff in there, so I'm assuming it's pretty much complete?
I think
It's a
so.
pretty complete package, you know, I mean, later on down the years that if we want to buy some maintenance or something,
Yeah.
there could be costs associated with that, but, no, this is complete. That's the dollar amount that we're going to spend getting it in and installed and everyone trained.
Okay, thank you.
No one's going to speak? Does someone want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
Okay, Tom and Steve, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you. That's all yeah, that's all I have, unless the board has something for me. Any questions or anything? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have the item relative to the support for the Hunters for Hunters and their request that the county board present a resolution. Having reviewed these with County Attorney Frieden, we had some concerns about the way that the resolution was written. And this is one of those situations where actually what the board doesn't have authority, and what you're doing is you're taking a position relative to supporting or endorsing one legislative action at the state or another. So the materials that were supplied are in here. The original resolution that was requested is in here, and this has been approved by several counties. I drafted a separate resolution based on my research and taking a look at the current Minnesota Wolf Management Plan and looking a little at the history of this question as it has happened over the last couple of years. And this resolution is getting at the same thing, saying that we want public engagement and we want the DNR to manage as they said they were going to manage in their 2023 to 2032 wolf plan. If you take a look at current population estimates and you take a look at the 10-year wolf plan, you can see that the population estimate has it at the highest level in their plan. That basically says that their next steps will be to engage the public to think about population, about wolf management, about depredation, and about other items that would come along with that. So I present this to you as an option. This is just encouraging the DNR and the state to work the problem that they've identified that they would work, and to engage the public in making sure that they have that information relative to this project, or to this problem. It says the same thing that the first one does without going so far as Hubbard County is officially in favor of the state of Minnesota taking action on a timber wolf hunting and trapping season. In 2023, when legislation was proposed that there would never be a wolf hunting or trapping season by Democrats, Republicans at that point came out and said, let the DNR manage the wolf population. So a little bit of history of back and forth relative to wolves and it being a political issue. The actual responsibility for the management of the wolf population does fall with the Minnesota DNR, and it is contingent on whether the wolves are listed as protected species or not at the federal level. So this is really all that can happen out of this. But I present it as an option, and I included the wolf plan. I'm sorry, that's why this is long, because throwing that in there. So I throw that up for your consideration. Attorney Frieden said this is much cleaner language and probably more within the scope of an advocacy position that would make sense for the board to take, to ask the state agency to manage according to their plan, encourage them to do that, engage the public in those comments and conversations, as opposed to asking for action where there isn't a clear plan or authority to do so.
I would be supportive of the second one with a few changes. I agree that if you read through the plan that the DNR has, it pretty much encompasses everything and gives them the option to do whatever they need to do to properly manage the problem when it exists. But we probably should have some language in there that would encourage the federal government to consider or explore removing the Endangered Species Act, because without that piece, the state can do nothing.
That's what I was going to say.
At least give them our opinion that we'd like them to seriously look into that, because there's problems here. We're not telling them, any position per se, except encouraging them to look into it, to look at the data and make a decision one way or the other.
And like you're saying, the one component that would be missing if we didn't do this would be the letter being sent out to Senator Klobuchar, because it starts at the federal level where it's got to be delisted first. I mean, we can talk about the management of the wolf and everything here in the state of Minnesota, but we can't do any of that until it's delisted. And yes, in the wolf management plan, Appendix 2, I believe it is, talks about the steps that they would take in order to develop a wolf hunting season or a wolf trapping season. But like I say, the first component is to get it delisted, which I think the county resolutions here, part 2, whatever, really doesn't address that part of it. So that's where I would still be in support of what the Hunters for Hunters have provided.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to take as strong a position that say we're in favor of delisting it because I know nothing about it, you know, but I certainly encourage them to look at it and consider based on the data. If it's appropriate, they should be doing it so that it can be managed.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I appreciate that wolf management plan there from the DNR. I went through it, and it was interesting. And, you know, that's the approach that I would like to see done on it, was to follow the DNR's already developed wolf management plan and then get more public engagement involved. So that's why I was kind of going with the second one, but then what David added is good too. So I kind of like to see the second one with what David added.
Is there a way to support the letter being sent to Senator Klobuchar? And then the county resolution?
I think if we add that language on the piece, on the Endangered Species Act, that we'd forward that to our senators and Congress, men and women.
Yeah, because like I say, it's got to start there.
Yeah.
Because I know many, they're all aware of it.
And the only other thing is with the Hunters for Hunters, of course, they're gonna be sending this as a group that'll have all the counties listed that support them. And if we're omitted, then it's basically saying, and to me, it's saying we're not supporting that delisting of the wolf unless we say something to that effect.
But wouldn't, with the second resolution, we would still send them a copy so we could still be listed?
I could get the language relative to, and again, I would want language relative to the mechanism at the federal level that allows for that. At what point does that decision come up for, reconsideration? That, in this case, I'm proposing that we would work with the state and say, you're at this point in the population level, and your plan says you're gonna do this, and we're encouraging you to do that. So where's the mechanism and the trigger at the federal level that says that how they should reconsider the listing or the delisting? And I apologize, I didn't research that. I'm doing it quickly now, and I'm not gonna come up with it very quickly, but we could find similar language that suggests that there's language included that asks them to consider the listing based on the population.
Because in the wolf management plan, they only talk about if the numbers get below 1,600, how to make them not go lower than that. They don't talk about anything in the wolf management plan about managing them, having hunting seasons or trapping seasons, except for Appendix 2.
They do identify a population of more than 3,200 as being, and growing, as being something that calls for public engagement and calls for additional depredation measures. Doesn't specifically call for hunting or trapping, but and you'd have to read through that, but it does identify the population, and the population estimates at this point in time are in that fifth level of stable and possibly growing, which does call for public engagement.
I have a question for one of you. When were you hoping to have these resolutions all gathered? Did you have a date in mind?
A specific date? No, the sooner the better. And we're not asking for just Amy Klobuchar. We're asking for it to be a bipartisan, that Tina Smith, Pete Stauber, and that's what we requested actually for them to sign Pete Stauber's bill.
Okay, yeah, he's been working on this, I know, yeah.
Yes.
So something tells my gut if we can craft the language the way we kind of recommend here, something and my gut always tells me that the federal government's really slow to react on some of these things. So by making them aware of this as early as you can, it may spur them to look at the information and the data coming from the public a lot sooner than they might otherwise to address the problem. Or they may come back and say, there's no problem, we're gonna leave it as it is. I don't know that. That's up to the experts, I guess.
Even when my son spoke to the assistant commissioner of the DNR, and he said that we need to have a wolf hunt, but he's like, right now, without him being delisted, there's nothing the DNR can do.
Right.
And he said, we need it to come from the senators, need to pass a bill to delist it and have a language in there that special interest group can't right away take and put them back on the endangered species list by a judge out of California.
And it is possible to have a season without them being delisted. It was done out west, in Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. And, you know, if you look at federal bills like the marijuana bill that was passed here in Minnesota, they went above and beyond the federal laws to get that done. Just like hog hunting in Texas out of an aircraft. There's a federal aviation law that says you can't shoot out of a helicopter. Texas went above and beyond the federal government and said, we have a problem, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna get it done.
So if we waited until the next meeting, which would be April 5th or 3rd?
Second.
Second, is it the second?
It's a second.
Okay,
Second.
Couple weeks.
yeah, for you to craft the additional language, Jeff?
I could have that done probably by the end of the week. But yes, we could have it on the agenda for the 1st of April,
Okay,
or 2nd of April.
is that the consensus of the board that you'd like to have that done?
Yes.
We can make a motion to move it, to table it till the
Okay, all right, so Dave moves,
first April meeting.
I'll second.
and Tom will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries, okay? So thank you for coming. It appears that the resolution will pass, but we just need additional language to
Yeah.
add to the resolution.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to see the language, or would that be at the next meeting, or?
It'll be in the agenda materials, the Thursday before the second meeting's March 2nd, or April 2nd.
Okay.
So March 28th.
So a week from Thursday, the language will be out on the website.
Can I ask quick, what did you guys wanna see in the new language? I just didn't catch all of that.
I think what the commissioners were asking for is they were asking to include language that supports your request that federally consider delisting the wolves due to their population. But I don't know what the mechanism is, and it's not in the current draft.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to go as far as the first resolution on here that said we were in favor of having the federal government remove them from the endangered list, because I know nothing about this, you know, and I'm not going to profess to be an expert on it and tell them what to do. The second one doesn't address the Endangered Species Act, so we're trying to thread the needle in between the two.
So that's something that I would have to come back, because I have a trip plan beginning of April, when you're saying you have your next meeting.
No, are you?
No, you don't have to come
and
back.
Yeah.
Can I ask your name?
Jason,
Jason, if you would leave contact information with me, I can, who should I send it to so you can review it before I put it on the agenda?
could you send it to Mike? Because I don't have a print here.
Okay. Mike, I can send you the proposed language. I've got your email up here. Okay. I'll send it to Mike before it goes to the agenda.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And Jason, once again, it appears the consensus of the board is we are going to pass this. It's just a language technicality, so no, you don't have to come again
Okay.
unless you wish to.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Okay, the next one, resolution.
Madam Chair, this one is brought forward the same as the language from Becker County. We found no real need to modify this because this really does affect the county in the ways that it's been identified as potentially affecting.
Okay, we talked about this at the work session. Is there anything else you want to talk about before someone moves for the motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, Steve moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Nope.
Tom seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, so the third one, Jeff, has a list of suggested people that we talked about at the work session.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the form of the membership of the committee and the form of the committee are identified in statute. And this is suggested as how we would populate that committee. There's plenty of room for discussion about this item. For example, if we say that we want a representative from the county HRA, what we would do is we'd contact the county HRA and say, we're asking you to designate somebody from your organization to sit on this committee. If we say that the Park Rapids EDA, the HLDC, then they would make the determination of who to appoint to that committee.
So I have a question, because I'm thinking of a township supervisor that I think would be good on the committee. Do we recommend to you, or how is the township one handled?
If you, in that situation, we've got 28 townships, and we've got a committee that has to be 11 to 15 people, again, so we're threading the needle. So if you have names that you'd like us to reach out to in an order, we would do that, that's how we populate those members.
That was something that the Hubbard County Township Association meeting last night that we.
Yeah, we
Steve
brought it
up.
forward and informed everybody that was there.
Did you have any volunteers?
No.
Well, there was one gentleman that asked in the front row. I'm trying to remember his name. He's with Hard Hat Ministries, and I think he's White Oak Township, but I'm not positive.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if he expressed interest, but he did, yeah.
You want to know the
Want
process?
a little more
to do it?
information in the
Yeah.
process, yes. So,
If you know of people who are interested, you could give me names. If you want me to reach out to Theora and/or Reno and ask them if they would send something out to see if people would reply with their interest.
I
we
would
could
like
do
to
that.
at least see a minimum of 2 township supervisors on it, because they're the ones that could get affected the most by an EDA.
And
If
I-
they opt out, then they're not taxed for the EDA either, so, I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides of it.
Yeah. And I think sending out, like with, talking to Theora and maybe Reno or whatever, because how many township supervisors weren't at last night's meeting?
Quite a number.
So I'd like to get, cast a wide net.
And I'd like to see if possible, because there's gonna be pretty good representation around the major population areas already based on the layout of the committee. If we can find, 1 or 2 of those township members from some of the outlying townships, that have the right experience to be beneficial to this committee,
Yeah.
I think that would be a good thing.
And I would stress too that supervisor is the key word there. Not someone that is a clerk or a treasurer, but the supervisor of the township
Oh.
that actually plays a role in making the policy.
And has some experience
Yeah.
in this, in this arena, not just anybody, just,
Yeah.
somebody that either A, has been in the business community and understands, or been involved in
government functions that make this kind of thing happen. So we have a real good cross-section of the county, but making sure we also have people that understand, what we're trying to do here, and they'll have a better understanding of what the proper recipe is for the makeup of this entity.
I know for some of the townships in my district, it might be a bit of a challenge to find people with that sort of background, because it's very rural, very ag. So that's gonna be a challenge, but, I've made the offer open to anybody who expressed interest, so.
And then, I'm thinking, I'd visit my townships when they have their meetings, but with 9 townships, it might take me more than a month to touch base with everybody.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. So I didn't know if there's like a deadline if we need to have this done.
But, I can identify one from up in Fard that I know that is, heavily involved in management of a large business that serves the entire area. That might be a good option.
Yeah,
They're there.
yeah.
They don't have to have run a business, they just have to understand how this stuff works.
And they could be retired up here too.
To answer the question, I'd like to have this filled out before and have the board approve the actual membership of the committee at April 2nd.
Okay.
So that doesn't, we won't have the names, to give us all that time, we won't have the names out in the materials. We'll hand the names out at the meeting to give us the rest of that week to work. But I think with most of these, we can, the township supervisors are gonna be the hardest ones to find. Other business interests with relevant background, I think are gonna be relatively easy to find. People know who people are that are doing business, especially along that northern 71 corridor or along the Highway 2 corridor. There are people up there who have background and an interest in this.
So with your, the date that you would like the names, I'm thinking the HRA meeting was yesterday. They're not even gonna meet now until the middle of April. So would you just leave that slot open to insert a name then and just use representative?
Yeah, I think it's pretty, I think we need an HRA representative, and whether.
Right, but I'm just saying they won't have a meeting before then, so you would just leave the slot listed as a
Yes.
HRA representative. Yeah. So if I counted through here where Jeff says can be more than one or two, so you're at 13 and the board can be 15, you said, so?
11 to 15 is the.
11 to 15.
Yep.
So if we ended up with 3 township supervisors that were qualified, that wouldn't be a problem.
And I also reached out to Headwaters Regional Development Commission, asking if they had any interest in participating and if they had any time. The reply back was that would be the county's choice, but we would serve in a capacity that enhances Hubbard County's opportunities moving forward. Must be a politician.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, so what does that mean?
Yes, if you ask us, ask what I got out of it.
And the only reason I'm thinking there is, like I say, they're a regional development commission, so of course, they're not just focusing on Hubbard County, but the whole region. And of course, the thought behind regional development commissions is that if the region is strong, it helps, if one county is strong, it helps the region type of an idea, type of thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I would actually prefer that this committee stay hyper-focused on just Hubbard County.
I'm just thinking of the resources that they may have.
Not that the entity, once it's made, wouldn't work with regional entities and stuff, but we have to look when this committee's gonna give a recommendation to this county board on what a Hubbard County EDA should look like and how it should operate and in what lanes. I would prefer it stay hyper-focused on Hubbard County for that. Its purpose is to design and help recommend the makeup of the EDA.
And ultimately, the important thing to remember is we're asking you to authorize a resolution to establish a committee to study this, to provide a recommendation. Statutorily, they have 60 days to get this done once you get that, right? Once you create that group. Based on the proposal from Ellers, they're gonna meet 2 or 3 times in that amount of time. They're gonna write a report, make a recommendation, and you have the ability to accept the recommendation or make your own decision, or do nothing, right? You always have all those options available to you, so, yeah.
And, obviously, we can only have 2 commissioners on the committee. And so obviously, I would not be able to serve as a Heartland Lakes Development Commission member,
Right.
you know, because there's a potential we could have 3 commissioners in, and that wouldn't work.
So the first thing we need is a motion to approve your recommendation of the committee. Is that correct?
The makeup he's
The,
got
the
is-
motion would be to approve the resolution, establishing a committee.
Yes,
And moving forward with that.
Which includes the
And,
makeup.
and this policy implication really doesn't include that makeup, that's completely open for discussion. But the enabling resolution of a committee to explore the development of the economic development in Hubbard County. So it doesn't identify who that committee is. This is a suggested makeup of the committee.
And when we say, when it says 1 to 2 township supervisors, that wouldn't preclude one of those being somebody from the city of Laporte or city of Akeley instead of a township, correct?
Or it says, yeah, city representatives, township representatives, yeah.
Okay, so let's do the resolution first. Do we have a motion do I have a motion to approve the resolution to establish the committee?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, so Steve moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dave will second, okay.
I've
Is there
got-
any further discussion on the resolution itself?
There's one thing, I don't know where to put this in there. It's in Eller's report, and they talk about the focus is primarily. So I don't know if that's part of, if that would be, if we would discuss that later. They're talking about the primary is to establish to achieve the county's goal of redeveloping the county center, government center property, which my thought was that we were creating a countywide EDA to bring economic development throughout the county.
I'm sorry, what page is that on? And I'm gonna profusely apologize on behalf of Ellers because they took this proposal.
paste.
They copied and pasted this proposal and that language was for another county.
So let's see, it's in their report, it's on top of page 4, or is it on the top of page 7? Or in our report, it's top of page 268.
Yes, that,
And it says Ellers will carefully coordinate the committee meetings and report drafting process with committee chair to ensure the focus is primarily on establishing an EDA to achieve the county's goal of redeveloping the government center's property, which,
that paragraph is not supposed to be there.
yeah, because that's not my primary goal.
Nope, that
I
is.
figured we could do that on our own.
Catch.
You will recall when Bruce was here talking about having just done this process in Wright County.
Yeah.
That was their primary function.
Yeah.
I,
Just kind of figured that was
Yep.
a missed thing, but I just wanted to express that, so, 'cause
the goal is
like
to
you say,
establish the scope of an economic development authority for Hubbard County.
Yeah. And like you say, I'm in it for the whole county, not
Yep.
just the government property.
We don't even have the same problem they do. They had a property that they needed to redevelop, and the only way to have full latitude to do that and not have to take the highest bidder, no matter how low it was to give it to an economic development authority.
Yeah. And that if we establish one, it may help us do this, but that's not my primary reason.
It won't have anything to do with this project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
Not at this point. We have the authority to do what we want with the current project, so.
Thank you.
I apologize on behalf of them, and I'll chastise Bruce personally and publicly. We just did.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion? Okay, so then all that are in favor of passing the resolution to create a committee to explore the economic development in Hubbard County, Motion to approve, say yes.
Aye.
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 Okay, anybody, nay? Motion carries. So then going back, do we want to talk further about, the committee at this time?
Madam Chair, I believe the question on the table is whether or not to include a representative from HRDC. And the other question that I would raise is whether myself as a member, or Angel Wiesner from the City of Park Rapids, or any other staff member from any of these agencies, as you mentioned, identifying supervisors instead of clerks, whether you would want us to be ex officio members, just there to support and provide background material, or voting members. And there's no real vote. They're coming to a consensus to authorize a report to send to the board. But that would be the other question that I think is viable, is if staff are in attendance, are we there to support and gather data and help compile the report so that the committee can provide consensus and make a recommendation? If that were the case, we would have, if we had that many people, we'd probably have 11 members and 4 supporting members. If you included HRDC, I'd put them in the supporting member role, the same as I would with others.
I think that makes sense.
I was gonna say, I kinda like that idea. I know that it all comes down to us. I mean, the committee could recommend something, but we could say, no, we'd rather do it this way, or tweak it, or whatever the case may be. I like having that, I don't wanna say control, but I guess in a sense it is. I mean, we were elected, and if a committee comes through and our constituents might not appreciate it, that we don't have the authority to, but I like the idea of staff being there, because, I mean, Jeff's knowledge is right there.
So
And then
what would
Mary's, and if anybody from HRDC, if they've got any, like I say, we aren't EDA people, that's not our daily jobs, and it isn't Jeff's daily job either, in a sense, but he does have prior knowledge. Mary's got knowledge. I know there's staff on HRDC that has knowledge. Angel from Park Rapids, she's obviously has some knowledge too, and I value all that input.
Yeah, with Angel, I mean, the city has their own EDA already, so she could be a good input for how to coordinate the two.
I would agree having those people as advisory. What would those 4 be? My suggestion is, for the same reason you would have HRDC there, same reason you would have Jeff there, same reason you would have Angel there, is because they're a wealth of information. You need to include Mary Thompson then too.
Yep.
Because she is a wealth of information on economic development. And those would
Plus
be,
she's
in
brought
my
in a
mind,
lot of money
your
for the
4
area.
advisory people.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we have those 4, and then we find 11 others,
Yes.
who would be a mayor, city council, or supervisors, or other elected officials, or these business representatives. So I think in this discussion as we're pausing, before we make a vote, the other thing that would be helpful in this, to amend this motion, would be to identify the 2 commissioners to be on this committee. If we're at that, we want 11 members from these areas, and we're gonna identify 4 people that are kind of in support positions from the county, the city, HLDC and HRDC. I think we're kind of, feels like that's a little settled. Then to identify County Commissioner 1 and County Commissioner 2, add that to the motion to approve the resolution
Okay.
and establish the committee.
So I have a recommendation for the commissioners. So Dave is he's board chair for HLDC, he's on that, so he's got that background. Ted's on the HRA board, so he's got that background. So I would recommend the 2 commissioners would be those 2, because they already bring in
You guys are okay with
information
that?
from other people that we're polling here.
Are you guys okay with that?
I was gonna recommend Ted.
Thank
So
you.
that satisfies 1/2 of or all of my recommendation. Yep.
Okay.
And then as far as like the city representatives too, I'd like us to reach out to the 4 major cities. And then if there's only 2 cities that bring forward a candidate, that makes it easy. But if each city were to bring forward a candidate, then we could kind of think who's the best qualified. And it says it could be more than one, so it depends, I guess, on the number of city representatives that would ask to be on it.
Yep. And from a next steps standpoint, when you approve this and we have this conversation, then Denise and I will reach out to Township, Theora, Reno, each of the cities, and tell them that the board authorized this and we're looking to populate this list, and do they have anybody they'd like to recommend?
Okay.
And hopefully have a list done by April 1st. We're putting a lot on April 1st this year, and it's not a joke, but there's a lot of deadlines that are coming up on April 1st this year.
Yeah, there is.
So could you have, one city representative from Park Rapids, and then have 3 township representatives, but one of those township representatives should be from one of the small cities?
Could be something like that, yeah. Because we don't want to get it too big. I mean, if we're already talking 4 staff, I guess.
Yeah, you have a lot of people to coordinate with.
Now we're down to 11 open spots with 2 commissioners, now we're down to 9. It'd be hard to kind of shoehorn everybody in there, but, yeah. So that might work, yeah, like you say, a couple of township supervisors and a couple of representatives from cities, one from Park Rapids and one from another smaller city, type of a thing. And like I say, it depends on, maybe we don't get anybody from any city but from Park Rapids or something like that, it's kind of all a guessing game today.
But we'll extend the offer based on this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to, if you couldn't find one, you don't want to be, you
Well,
want
we
some
can't have the
flexibility.
committee.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion on this, or can this just be board consensus?
So we have a motion to approve the resolution and a second.
Yes. I thought we already voted on that.
We did that.
Oh, did you already vote on that?
Yes, we did.
It passed.
Never mind. Okay,
So
then.
do you want us to vote on this, or can it just be board consensus?
You can have consensus now if this conversation about the membership is suitable and the 2 that you identified to represent the county board, that can be consensus, yeah.
So we've given you input, so Jeff can reach out to the organizations, is that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
The cities and the townships and all that kind of stuff? Okay.
We actually have 90 days after the initial meeting to take any sort of action.
Is it
and bring
90,
it forward,
not 60?
so,
Yep,
yeah.
okay.
So, I think that's a little bit extra time, but then, I don't know, probably need to discuss compensation for this committee.
I think we have a policy already on compensation for committees, don't we? Or does that vary per committee?
For
County, don't we have a county policy on?
I think they vary because like the
Well,
planning
the board,
commission.
yeah, that's different.
Yeah,
But the rest of them, isn't that straight across the same?
A board-approved committee, I would think.
So there's 2, I think there's 2 questions here. One is, are the commissioner representatives going to be able to file for reimbursement? And I would say that the
Yes.
answer is yes.
Yes.
Because it's established by the board at this point in time. The other one is whether or not there's going to be compensation for the other members of the committee.
Yep.
And typically that has not been our process unless somebody
It's ongoing.
unless it's ongoing, yeah. And I think we're asking for 2 or 3 meetings to come to consensus on this.
are we gonna provide something like mileage or whatever too? I'm just thinking about the north end of the county where it's, if you go to Fardin Township, it could be over 60 miles to get here.
We could have the meeting up there.
I like that.
The board wishes on that, whether you want to extend that, or not. Typically, it's, I think, planning commission is one of the only ones. Does the park board get
Well, the
reimbursement?
HRA board gets mileage. Mm-hmm.
But does the park board? I don't
The
think.
city could
Yeah, the
probably
park
do
board
theirs
does,
under
yeah,
the
park
thing.
board.
The townships could probably run it through their
Yeah,
entities
what I was
if they
thinking.
wanted to. So
Yeah.
most of it would be covered except for the business.
Like if Angel has to go to northern Hubbard County, she'll probably do it through the city.
yeah.
HLDC though would need
Yeah.
They don't do.
That's pure volunteer as it is.
Yeah. And the park chambers, yeah.
We typically wouldn't, we haven't done that in the past, especially for an ad hoc committee.
Okay. Just kind of going through the process.
Okay, anything else we need to do with this, Jeff?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
And then 2 items furthering the goals of doing some development in northern Hubbard County. We have 2 of them consecutively here. One is to identify funds not to exceed $30,000 for preliminary development of current tax forfeited parcels to be returned to the tax rolls, some as housing developments and some as industrial developments. We've got a couple of contracts with some engineers and some surveyors who are willing to do this work and can do it in the timeline that we need. But we need to authorize the money. This money would come from what I showed you last week, reallocation of some of the capital funds that haven't been spent into the 2024 Economic Development Fund. So the total amount captured, we just have to shift some up. And then eventually, if we get to the point of saying this works and this doesn't work, hopefully we'll be coming back in the fall with a request for a tax forfeited parcels request or sale and a request to withhold those for future development, just like the one today. But I'm not going to ask you to withhold and spend $320,000 on parcels without having some engineering or survey work done. So this is the step to get us to the point of determining if the areas we've identified as with potential actually have that potential, or if there are unseen issues. Now, I have driven all the parcels that we're talking about, and I believe that they're reasonable places and developable places and high enough places that they're not going to be difficult. You know, in housing, if you're going to have a 98,000 square foot lot, do you have 2 septic sites on it? Well, everything that I've looked at is high enough to suspect that it probably would, but I haven't done any soil sampling. So,
One thing brought up at the SWCD meeting, when I mentioned that as one of my reports to them, is Midge Lake and potential of 26 or more lots there, and they were wondering if could look into the idea of a municipal septic system there, or some a large septic system serving all of it.
Like a subordinate service district?
Yeah.
yeah, I everything like that is on the table.
Okay.
And we've discussed all kinds of ideas about having community septic or not. I mean, if you do, you can increase the density a bit. Maybe you don't want to increase the density. When does an environmental review get triggered relative to density? All these things are coming into play. But first thing, it starts with doing these surveys, looking at the easements and the right-of-ways, and then starting doing some of the soil sampling. And this, if we spend up to $30,000, it would include platting, and in those housing areas.
Okay.
I drove some of them like last week, like I said, and I looked around, I'm like, that looks like a nice place to put a house. A lot of trees to clear, but a nice place to put a house. Yeah. But yes, we have had conversations about shared or community wastewater.
Yeah, even if it can't be all one, you can at least maybe
Yep.
get it divided up into maybe several.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, I got 2 big systems on our property, and
Yep.
everyone is served by those 2.
Yep.
My guess is you would discover, though, if you go down that route and looking at it, obviously the more properties you have hook up to a municipal system, the more economical it is. So you probably would end up in the spot where you'd be looking at doing the whole lake.
Something like that, or, yeah, I know that, those systems are popular down around closer to the Twin Cities, even where my parents owned a lake home in Wright County. You know, you got so many lakes and they're all fully developed now, and when the septic systems on so many of them are subpar type of thing, they look at creating a a sewage system like that that covers a lot of people. So it's not, we wouldn't be breaking new ground.
The east side of Midge Lake is pretty well developed already,
Yeah, and the
the way
north
the
end.
maps look, and it's a small lake. So, you know, having central sewer for the whole lake would be beneficial to the lake.
And make it more
But it could be
appealing.
very expensive, I don't know, you know.
Well, yeah, but you divide the cost up.
So a wastewater treatment facility probably starts at about $30 million.
So it would, to me, it would be important if you have an existing property and they have their own that is currently working, that you would not force them into
Yeah.
switching. Yeah, when it fails, then that's one thing, but to force them to do that, it's kind of like, anyway, yeah.
If you had a large septic system that served a dozen or 24 properties, it's different than a wastewater treatment facility. But, so that, a wastewater treatment facility is probably out of the question unless it were necessary in order to facilitate some of the development up there. You know, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars of development it would take before the county would consider becoming wastewater treatment operators.
I probably won't be a commissioner then.
Yeah,
And
I've got
I've
two.
seen hybrid systems where you know, each place would have its own tank for the solids to settle, and then they just move the effluents out through smaller piping into a large drain field or treatment pond.
In my two systems, one serves 7 units and another one can serve 5, up
Yeah.
to 5.
And I heard where you were coming from, and then I heard the conversation going to say, we'll include everything on the east side of the lake, and now we're into
And they're in
a
the 30
wastewater
million
treatment
bucks.
facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, there may even be, if we're thinking about the tax forfeited land on Midge Lake, there is probably room on that parcel to do something like Tom was talking about.
Could be it all comes down to money.
But,
What's the most efficient way of doing it?
but having shared septic sites for multiple properties is something that can happen. If that were to happen, presuming that the County Economic Development Authority that was created is doing this, they would have to take a more active role in the development of the property because there would be shared services, there'd be shared agreements, and they would have, the whole thing would have to be developed to support those shared services. As opposed to if the county buys 40 acres, and plats them at 2.5 and sells the lots to developers or private people to develop, and they're on their own, then we don't have a development. You know, we're making those parcels available for sale for the development of housing. There's greater and lesser degrees of being involved as a developer. If you went with shared sewer, you would be more involved as a developer than you would if you're just selling parcels for other people to build houses on.
Yeah.
And so, and again, that's exactly why 7E is on here. 7D is let's do the preliminary work to identify if these parcels are suitable. Let's not, you know, this is about 10% of what I think we would expend if we were to buy those parcels for housing development. The other portion of that is relative to the housing study to make sure that we have the data that we need to know if we just plat 80 acres in 2.25 acre lots, is that gonna meet a current need? Or do we have to develop those further? Or do we have to consider providing more dense housing and doing some of the sewer districting that we're talking about? What is the type of housing that's most needed, is gonna support the economy, and is going to sell quickest?
Yeah.
You know, we don't wanna buy this and have it sitting there for 20 years waiting for somebody to buy a lot to build a house.
Yeah.
So we wanna make sure there's a market for it. We wanna make sure that we're creating the right conditions, or creating the conditions where the market is willing to purchase these and develop them. Because the whole idea is to take these tax forfeited parcels and put them back on the tax rolls in this situation.
I know there's some, like, the developments that are north of Highway 2, I think those are like 2.5 acre lots. I know there are some that are still, after all these years, still not developed. You know, and that obviously could happen with any development. It's, you know, somebody buys it as I'm gonna build a house, or maybe they're gonna buy it as speculation, you know, and it goes up in that, so. And that's, I did talk with Farden Township at their meeting last Tuesday. Gave them the big picture, a high level looking at it. Their consensus was that they were in support. Last night's Hubbard County Township Association meeting, Tim Humphreys from Farden Township said that he's gotten some calls, some in support and some in opposition. There was another gentleman there, he'd made the comment about, is the county getting into the, becoming
Basically, the real estate
real
business.
estate developers or something like that, and I'd explained about how we've lost so much tax base, especially now with, and I forgot to touch on the conservation fund last night, and those 10,000 acres, in which I think 6,000 or 7,000 have gone to either us or the state. So I mean, we are getting some pilt, but like I say, we are losing some tax base in that. So I think, there was only those couple of people that were opposed, nobody else said anything, so.
There's also another significant part of my update in a minute will be about a conversation I had with the Cass County Administrator and with Reno at a meeting last week in Walker. And Reno said, be sure to remind everybody that anything you build up in there is also going to help the tax base for the Cass Lake being a school district.
Yep.
It's not the Farden Township levy that is pinching the people up in that area of Hubbard County. It is the school tax up in that area of the county. And any development up there would be beneficial to the school district.
I know that when people called me about the Cass Lake School District's levy and that, and the county shouldn't be allowing it, and I'd have to tell them, I said, well, we don't have any control over school districts. We collect their levy and we give it to the school district that we're the middleman. And at a lot of those people, I made the comment that really about the only thing the county could do is improve your tax base to help lower your costs on the school referendum. So, as Jeff just said, hopefully, this will probably take a couple of years or more to really get things rolling, but it's gonna take even longer if we don't get started.
Yeah, and that's what 7D and 7ER is spending the preliminary money to make sure that the areas we're identifying are developable, that there's a market for them, and that it's gonna work, right? We need the housing study. The housing study you'll see in 7E is, HLDC has gotten half of the housing study in a grant, and they're asking us for the other half, and then the 14,000 additional is to concentrate on the areas of northern Hubbard County and specifically study that. So that's why the request is 30 for the county to do that. It includes, half of that is going to just making sure that we're concentrating on the northern part of Hubbard County and that we have the data we need specific for there. The rest of it will be countywide.
Did HLDC get the grant or just applied?
They've applied for the grant.
Yeah.
They've applied for the grant.
Okay, so do I have a motion for 7D for approval? Dave moves.
Spending the money, because that's exactly what the economic development funds are for.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Tom seconds. Do we have any more discussion?
The only thing I wanna touch base is on the housing studies. That's
Oh,
something.
wait, but
Oh, okay,
we're not
we'll
on
do that
housing
one.
study, we're
Okay.
just on 7D.
Yeah,
Yep,
I'm,
okay.
I'm in favor of the survey and investigation of everything. I just don't want to get into developing properties and platting everything so that a developer can just come in. I want the developer to be responsible for all of those costs instead of the county being responsible for those costs.
That'd be the preferable way, yeah.
I don't want to get into managing properties like that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, now Ted, with the housing study, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say about the housing study then was, of course, the HRA had asked in their budget proposal to do a housing study, and they obviously weren't given any money to do that. I just wanted to say too that I was asked to support increasing the HLDC's funding. In exchange, I was looking forward to having some money given to the HRA to help them out, and none of that came to fruition.
Mary talked to HRDC about doing the housing study, and they don't have any plans to get this done right now. This will be available for everybody to use.
But like I say though, if we would have granted the HRA some dollars to do this, then there would have been funding available.
Except Mary is, the HRA then would have possibly asked us for the total amount instead of having the ability to apply for the grant. I don't know if the HRDC would have done that or not, but
There's a difference between asking for the money and a difference between coming with a plan that's organized and ready to go and asking for the money.
Yep.
Have we got any competing proposals at all?
No, HRDC did not bring a proposal. They asked for money to do it.
No, I'm saying
there's not-
besides Maxfield,
No.
did anybody else get contacted? It looks like Maxfield just shoved this information over and said, here, this is what we want to do for you.
We've looked at several options. This is the first one that came
It's
up.
the first time I've heard of it,
It's
so.
the first one that's come up with the capacity to do it at this time for this price. There was another option that we were talking about a few months ago that was gonna be a regional study, and the grant funds never came forward for that one to happen, so that provider backed out of that.
we've actually been talking about a housing study for as long as I think I've been on the board. So,
Well, the last one was in 2008, I believe it was, and then 16 it was updated or something, but other than that, there's nothing.
So you can break this request down in two pieces. One is, half of this is 15,000 for the primary study and 14 for the concentration in northern Hubbard County. And it is still contingent on getting the grant. The MHA grant, I don't believe they're supposed to get a determination this week on whether they get the grant or not, so.
okay, so does anyone want to make a motion to approve this?
I think you'd have to ask the question first, what do you want to include in it? I mean, do you want the full enchilada, or do you?
Or I guess in a sense, the full enchilada, but if they don't get the grant, well then it'll have to come back.
Right, because it's not to exceed
It's
30,000.
It's contingent on the funds
Yeah.
being available from the grant, yes.
But to me, since we're trying to develop the northern part of the county, we need to spend the $15,000 to have part of the study look specifically at that area.
The debate would come down to, how much additional data are you gonna get for that 14,000? And is it going to be detailed enough to separate it from the rest of the Hubbard County housing study to justify the 14,000? I don't know.
Other than to tell you there's space there.
Yeah, I mean, you kinda know that.
Yep.
So are you gonna spend 14,000 to find out a very small bit of information that you really didn't need? Because
Yeah.
it's encompassed in the whole study?
And,
I don't know, that's what I'm unsure about.
So do you want further research done?
No, I don't,
Well, they're talking about the four northern townships, Fern, Rockwood, Helga, and Farden. So it wouldn't be just that area that we're
Right.
looking at, it'd be the whole northern
Yeah.
row of townships.
And the reason that there's additional there is primarily because that's not in our financial circle, it's in Bemidji's financial circle, and that's why the additional study would be relative to not the fact that there's space available for housing, but the market and the needs and the job analysis in that area and the unmet housing needs that they have.
yeah, because they would have to dip into Bemidji to see what the housing capacity is there to find out if it's justified for us to do anything.
Yeah, I think, I'm trying to remember if it's Bemidji or Beltrami County, 1,600, short 1,600 homes?
It's gotta be the county.
It's gotta be the county, yeah.
I would suggest specifically, because we're intending development in that area, that the concentration would be well worth the effort. Otherwise, if you just study markets in Hubbard County, you're gonna get a very concentric thing around the lakes and the city of Park Rapids. This would be incorporating the market and the real estate market primarily in the Bemidji metro area and how that affects those northern counties. The challenge would be if we don't get the grant, do we want to do the principal study without the concentration or consider more funds at it? But that's the request right now is support half of the study for the county and support that piece that would support the northern four county, or just townships.
Well, we could approve this, and then you would have to come back to us if the grant doesn't come.
Contingent on getting the grant,
Yep.
yes, yep.
I don't know, that's, I guess we have we have housing funds that can be used for this. Best not to go into these things blind. So you gotta spend a little money to find a few things out. You might not find anything really new that you didn't know, but if you do, it's gonna be helpful.
Yeah.
There are several organizations that'll benefit from the housing study, not
That's right.
just the county. It'll be the HRDC and the city, and even developers will want that
Levy and-
information.
yeah. And one of the questions I would hope it would answer would be a question that Commissioner Karen just asked. I don't want to get into development. Well, how far do we have to carry the ball before somebody's willing to purchase that and build a house so that it's back on the tax roll? That's one of the specific questions that I have relative to this. If we've got 40 acres, can we just parcel it off and sell it off, or are we gonna have to put a road in to make sure everybody has access?
Because the 3.1 million that, we're being awarded, for people to move in and not have assessments, that makes housing so much more affordable, and it helps people at the lower end that wouldn't even have that possibility
Yeah.
of owning a home.
Yeah, and infrastructure grants are available for, housing.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's one of the reasons for a county to bring it to that point.
Yes,
And then step out.
yep.
And
But I agree, we don't want to get into management of property, no.
The other thing that would be good about having this study is if we do apply for any other housing grant, we'll be one of the few that actually have the data to back it
Yeah.
up, and our grants applications will be much stronger.
Yep, good point.
Well, it can be more attractive for a developer if he knows that information going into something to make better financial decisions for themselves.
Yep.
We're not intending to rent, manage, subsidize. This is all intended to be market rate housing up there, and be built out by the developers and contractors who are doing that work.
I'll make a motion to approve the 30,000 for the housing study.
Up to contingent on
Up
the
to-
grant.
Yes, contingent on the grant. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, do you have anything else, Jeff, or should we move on to committee reports?
Just one brief update. As I kind of alluded to, I had a conversation with the city administrator for Walker, the county administrator for Cass Lake and Reno, the township contact. And I know we talked about this probably a year and a half ago, about the possibility of there being an ambulance service district in the Walker area, and the possible impact that might have on the Hubbard County townships or residents' properties that are within that service district. And it's looking more and more like that's gonna happen. At this point in time, the license is held by the city of Walker. The city of Walker is not gonna be able to, they're not gonna be able to keep up with the funding needed and the money that's gonna have to go in that, just to maintain having service in that area. And they're getting to the point of asking the county to take over that service district on their behalf, for there to be ambulance service in Walker and the surrounding area. And it's very likely that the county will take that up. And if they do, they will probably go to the point of coming up with an ambulance service district, which means that it'd be a special taxing district, spread out over that point in time, just to collect a levy, just to offset the cost of providing that service. We don't know the exact numbers yet. Josh is working on those from Cass County. He's been there a long time. He's not gonna bring anything to his board that he's not absolutely confident in, and when he has those numbers, he'll provide them to me. But it's not uncommon for rural hospital districts or ambulance districts to exist. It's just, it's a way to be actually more transparent and clear about it. I mean, the county could just levy for those funds and then pay that into that service contract to make sure that they have that happening, but then it would be just part of the regular levy, and it wouldn't be broken out, and people would see these dollars are going for this specific service. So that's how that would end up working out. I'm assuming we're gonna see something in the next couple of months when they, before they would do anything other than make a proposal, they would have public meetings. Josh Stevenson suggested that we would have joint public meetings. Walker is the center of that ambulance service district. Districts 3 and Districts 4, the townships, the easternmost townships, I believe, are the only ones in that district. Having them go to Park Rapids for a meeting to talk about their ambulance service doesn't make as much sense as having them go someplace in Walker. So when it comes time to schedule those public meetings, we'll do it in coordination with this board, and particularly with the two commissioners who have regions affected. So it's a complicated issue. It's very typical for rural communities to have to find other ways to fund their emergency response. So when I have more information, I'll bring that up. And then the last thing I wanted to update you on is we are working in the background on the county website. We've got our new vendor, and the website is live. It's just not linked to our domain, so anytime you look at Hubbard County, you're still going to the old one. We're working in the background to migrate all that data and format everything, and I really hope sometime on or about the 1st of April we'll be on the new website.
I will add on the ambulance, I just read that this morning, that Governor Walz on Monday unveiled a $226 million proposed revisions to the state budget, including a boost to funding for ambulance services.
It would be.
I know that's been a big, big topic of discussion at Public Safety Committee, AMC, because rural ambulance services they're hurting.
The reimbursement rates.
Funding's tough.
The reimbursement rates mean that they're losing money every time they make a run.
Yeah, the ambulance service did come to the Hubbard County Township Association
Yeah.
meeting. I was here and presented, and they were talking about the proposed legislation that was coming up. But then,
Apparently the message is getting through, which
yeah,
is good.
but, you know, we talk about another tax being served to the townships that are affected, and then if we're looking into an EDA, that's another tax on townships that participate. It is another tax on another tax to provide service, and it's a hard sell. It really is.
We haven't specifically identified taxing for the EDA yet.
I know that, but it's all in the paperwork, and you read it, that's how you're gonna support it, so it's gonna be hard to get people on board with doing something. But I think there's gonna be a fair amount of townships that just opt out of it. They don't want part of it because they don't want their residents taxed for it.
Until the resident needs services.
I'm talking
then-
about an EDA.
They wouldn't,
okay.
they wouldn't have an option on the ambulance service. They wouldn't have,
No.
it. On the
No,
EDA
that
they
would
would,
be- yeah.
but at this point in time, I don't.
There's pros and cons to both sides of it, so, I mean, whether the supervisors of that township see the benefit or the negatives of it, that's all up to them. But I just,
Yeah, I think about like Schoolcraft Township, they actually were, when I was last a supervisor, we'd started a process of making a comp plan because they wanted the township to stay rural and not be, have industry come in and stuff like that. And plus they've got 100 and some odd people as a population. Clay Township is what, got like 76 people.
Yeah,
And so I can see some of the smaller townships maybe opting out.
yeah, and there's a lot of public land in Clay too,
Yeah.
so that, you know, that kind of
What can you
bears.
do there?
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, I've had the comment made to me many times that why do we want to retire the jail bond and just roll right into another one? Why not give the residents a tax break by not doing that development, not spending those millions of dollars? So.
My argument to them would be, if they opted out of it, okay, so you might save a little bit on your taxes, but you're gonna get all the benefit of the increased tax capacity in the county.
Oh, yes, yeah,
They'll take the benefit, but they don't want the expense.
it is difficult to get people to see both sides of the coin, so I just have to be a better salesman or something, I don't know.
I don't, at this point, I don't see us asking to levy specific for the Economic Development Authority. Because
We'll see.
we have those money that's what the capture of the Enbridge money was for, was to have money available to do that. We're not at that point of figuring out what
Oh,
that's gonna
yes. No,
cost.
No, I realize that.
Okay.
I'm just informing and trying to make the information out there, that's all.
Those are all the reports I have.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion today. Who wants to start on committee reports?
I can start. I appreciate Josh presenting today because Foston was going to be one of my committees. I think Josh did a lot better job than I would have done. So I appreciate Josh doing that. The only other one I had was HRA, which was last night. Let's see, of course, we went over the financials and the property management stuff. There was some discussion on, like I've said earlier, we were gonna, they put the men's house up for sale. There was an offer made, but through discussion, they decided to not accept that offer, and they were actually gonna get another realtor involved, to get a market analysis from the two different, realtors. I know that, some of the commissioners, spoke out that they felt that we weren't getting enough, that they were worth more than what they were being offered for. So there's gonna be, like I say, we're gonna be looking at that, not only that, the men's house, but there's another house that the gentleman's been renting from us, and he would like to purchase it. He's been wanting to purchase it, I guess, my understanding, for the last couple of years. They're gonna get a couple of different market analysis on that property. We've told him, he was present at the meeting to begin with. We told him that we were gonna let him have the first opportunity to purchase it. I'm sure that if you've lived there for a while, you wouldn't wanna have your house sold out from underneath you. Let's see. And then, some bookkeeping stuff, updating the signature cards at the banks. Talked about a lot in Nevis, that's up for sale. Let's see. I guess, Steve, was there also, them missing something, or?
No, nothing significant.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The HRDC was there and presented. They talked about, let me go back here real quick. They have opportunities through down payment loan assistance, owner rehabs for homes. And,
It actually included mobile homes, which
Yeah.
is difficult to get any assistance to fix up.
there's some, and forgivable loans, so if you stayed in the home for 15 years, it would be forgiven, and if it was a mobile home, that would be down to 10 years. There we go. Okay, so yeah, the down payment assistance in Hubbard County HRA, Headwaters Housing Development Corporation, they also have affordable housing energy cost assistance programs. They're designed to encourage and assist low and moderate income households. Let's see, there could be up to $5,000 for down payment or closing cost assistance. There's also a fix-up loan program through the Minnesota Housing Fix-Up Program. It's a monthly payment loan available, and this would help out more households because you can have an annual income up to $139,200. They'd be at affordable interest rates. And of course, that would be to fix up on existing homes. There's also housing resources, more again, down payment assistance. Currently, the Hubbard County HRA has 15 active loans. Headwaters Housing Development Corporation They have 2 down payment assistant loans available. They talked about, currently they have 3 loans applied for, and a 4th was, the person just came in the last couple of days. And those are for the small cities here in Hubbard County. I believe it was Laporte and Akeley, maybe? Let's see. And then there was also I believe up to $32,000 assistance for the first-time homebuyers program. Let's see, and then, of course, the revolving loans that are available. There's 1 active business loan here in Hubbard County and 1 pending for a startup. And I don't remember where they said those were at, if it was in Park Rapids here. It seems like one of them was. And that's about all I got.
I have one HRA question. I was looking through, I'm just curious, in the paper on delinquent taxes, and HRA name appeared a number of times.
Yeah,
They
that was
talked
brought
about
up.
that.
Did you know what that's about?
Yep.
The way Sarah described it was that there was, of course, the transition last year. And I believe that they normally pay the property taxes at the first part for the whole year. And I think somewhere in the paperwork got lost that they didn't realize that it was, the first half had been paid, but not the second half.
Okay.
So, and HRDC said that they would step up and pay any interest and penalties over and above what was the original property tax. So it won't be, the HRA won't be responsible for that. And it didn't seem like it was a lot of dollars.
Yeah, there were small amounts each one, but there was quite a few of them.
Yeah.
It was more of an oversight, I think, than anything.
Yeah.
They said they would make good.
Thank you for asking.
Okay. Yeah. Didn't know I should ask it now, or,
No, good timing.
but I thought, well, it came to mind, so maybe I should ask it now.
Do you have committee reports?
Oh, yeah, I have had several, actually. SWCD, they're currently working on Priority Lakes project to identify priority lakes for implementing additional forest protection levels. They'd like to be able to get the protection level up to about 75%. And also, I will be helping at the Freshwater Festival on May 15th, and they extended the invitation to all commissioners to go to it if you'd like. And then that's all for that. And then the Mental Health Board, the Lakes Local Advisory Committee. The Drop-In Center has done some sprucing up over there. They did some painting, got some new furniture in there. The members plan on having a boat in the 4th of July parade and a booth at the fair. Jason, our transportation guy with Human Services, he was there and gave a report, and also mentioned that he's looking into trying to get that bus service available throughout the entire county, and that was well received by the members there, who, they often use those services. Let's see. Oh, yeah, another thing. So the Human Services representative, they said there's new state guidelines that now require their department to provide a treatment plan for newly released inmates who are identified with mental health issues. So they're now working out how they're going to go and implement that. And that's all for that one. I had Dancing Sky meeting yesterday up in Monoman. And maybe I can just go over, if there's time, maybe a few figures on accomplishment from last year. Had almost 12,000 people served by their senior linkage lines last year. Let's see, 332,000 meals served. they're trying to get more, there's more home deliveries made than, you know, group meals, because there's still effect of COVID, but they're trying to get more people to want to go to the group meetings, because they also have activities available for them. So it would be a nice social event for seniors, rather than staying at home all the time. Let's see, they offered 1,700 one-way trips for seniors for medical needs. Let's see, 919 older adults received legal counseling. Oh, yeah, and in the LAC, one person brought up wondering, you know, where do I get help for doing taxes? So
Oh,
that's-
my hubby does that.
Yes, he went to my hubby, and they were already full. There was no
Yeah, they
opening.
fill up right
Okay.
away.
Yeah, so they're wondering what else can they do. So some of them have trouble with doing taxes. You know, so it seems like something easy for most people, but
There was an organization in Hackensack that also helped out with seniors and doing taxes. I could probably get the name from an individual for you if you wanted it.
yeah,
I'll do that.
okay, appreciate it. Maybe a couple specific things for Hubbard County. Yeah, the senior linkage line that I talked about, there was 498 from just Hubbard County alone. And that's where they can get information on different stuff like this. You know, just need to let people know that it's there that they can call, you know, about it.
That's always been my thing, is how do you let people know about these
Yeah.
things that are available? Because even,
Yeah.
it's just a phone call, and they may have a simple question.
Yep. So yeah, we gotta get that out, to seniors, is that there's help available. Gotta get, let them know what resources are available. But yeah, it was a good meeting yesterday that I had. That's all.
I attended the HRA meeting last night. We already discussed that. The other one I attended was the County Township Association meeting, and Ted was there as well. And I brought up the issue of the HRA vacancy, spread the word a little bit more. There were a couple people that I have talked to in the last week or so that have expressed interest. I know Jeff has a letter of inquiry from one of those people. The other individual that I talked to, I was really hoping would be a little more proactive with interest, because he has HUD program experience. And I thought that would really be helpful, you know, to assist everybody. But apparently he didn't have interest, or I haven't heard back from him at all about it. At the Township Association, the only other things that were brought up was why doesn't the county return more tax forfeited lands to private ownership for tax purposes? And I tried to explain to the individual that there are certain statutes that have to be followed. We can't just say, hey, you want that piece of land? It's yours, buy it. You know, that he was a little difficult to try to explain things to. But a very nice guy, but anyway. And the other thing that has been noticed is there's been a lot of failing 911 address numbers and a multitude of failing street signs. The sheeting is peeling right off of them. They're no longer legible, or they are in really bad shape. So I thought I would bring that forward, and I'm not quite sure who to talk to in.
Bring that to the next Public Safety and Transportation meeting.
Okay, all right.
Because that's exactly where we can
Okay,
address
right.
it.
So does that include, you know, a few years back, I was still in the township board, so a while back, we had to replace all our signs with reflective signs. Does that include those reflective signs?
No,
Or these are only
the
blue
road
lights
signs are the
fine?
township's responsibility.
Yeah, and they're
if
fine.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they're good. It was all the 911 address numbers, and then the street signs. And I know the street signs are the county's responsibility. But the 911 address signs, I don't know what the policy is. I didn't have access to that to look it up. But I know in Cass, if the sign is failing, it is the owner who is responsible for purchasing a replacement. This individual's take on it was the sheeting is failing. It's not the ownership that caused this, but I do believe that sheeting has already lived out its expected life expectancy. And
So-
which is 15 years for a high-intensity prismatic, and that's what I see out there. So
Are property owners gonna care enough to have to fork over the dollars themselves, or?
that is
just
up
let
to them.
go?
If they want emergency services to find them, I would behoove them to purchase a new sign.
That's like at my house, the sign sits east and west, so the south side, one of the numbers have fallen off, but on the north side, they're just fine.
Yeah. South side is exposed to the sun, it
Yeah.
fades, it peels faster, moisture gets in there, and then the sign just pretty much disintegrates. So, anyway, that's all I have.
Do you wanna go next, Dave? I go last?
You can go ahead.
Okay. First of all, Ted, I have a comment. I'm not opposed to giving the HRA money, but the HRA did not come with a viable plan requesting dollars for specific reasons. So if they want us to look at the levy next year,
Yeah.
I would encourage you to do that, because
Yeah.
I didn't feel that they were in a place this last year to actually put those dollars into.
Yeah, it was like they took over 1 month and then the next month they had to have a budget, HRDC, so it was a tight schedule. I knew that they threw that in there because it's something that they wanted to do, and that,
But it wasn't that I was opposed. I needed a better plan.
yeah, and like I say, time was short.
So, the only meeting I have is Prime West, just to draw attention to the Park Rapids Community Dental Center, which is, CHI St. Joseph's. For the expansion, Prime West donated $141,148 to that. Prime West has been focusing also on giving extra benefits for people that, have their insurance through them. Some of the benefits are $85 per month for food, and there's certain, for healthy food, so there's certain food that is in that criteria. $60 for tooth care, and then once a year, $300 for progressive eye lenses, and then $100 for coating. So that's over and above what the standard insurance coverage is. So that would be one reason for people to buy Prime West insurance. Or not, they don't buy it, they apply for it. The next 10 years is gonna be a shortfall of 37,000 to 100,000 physicians, and half of the current physicians in the United States are over 55. Let's see, and 1% of the population uses 25% of the healthcare resources. So I just had a bunch of tidbits to share with you. That was it.
You know, I think about, like with Social Security and all that, where you got all the baby boomers and that are starting to retire, and it's putting a strain on the system. But nobody talks about after they all pass away, then the ratio to worker to retired people will probably be where it's better off, easier to support Social Security. Just like with the doctors and that, like I say, once the baby boomers, that anomaly that came about, once they're passed away, will things be better?
I have to respond by saying you have to take into account that we have aborted 63 million babies. And so if you count that as part of the population that was potential, there, and I understand that was, you know, by law, that was legal, or still is legal in some places. But we constantly talk about how there were a shortage of workers, but that does bear a factor.
Mhm.
So, yeah, who knows answers to your
We
question.
are also short of the amount of people that want to work.
Exactly.
And that hurts. That really hurts.
A couple things at a Northwest Regional Communications Board meeting, and I don't know if I ever brought up or not, but the region keeps an allotment of portable radios and things available. So if there's an emergency somewhere and a county needs more portable radios, they can request that and get those radios temporarily. We also have now created what's in the process of creating a remote, basically a remote dispatch center. So you can take a laptop, and you'll have a laptop that you can move anywhere with a cell device that'll connect you to cell service, so you have broadband, and you'll be able to run dispatch from anywhere. And you'll be able to instantly have your data from your dispatch on that laptop. It can fully function.
So
just
even
like
those
your regular
dead
dispatch.
spots,
Yeah, well, you might have to move to,
okay,
but you know, maybe you have to move a mile from where you might have liked to be to get the cell signal that you need from the modem. But the beautiful thing is that could be very beneficial to us when and if we do the jail expansion and we move the dispatch center, we will be able to have this portable dispatch center and not skip a beat while we transition to the new spot. So that'll be very beneficial. And then there was a group of us just last week that had the opportunity to meet with a staff person from Senator Klobuchar's office, and they were just taking input from the community basically on what our needs are and what we perceive the problems are. And it was very well attended. We pretty much touched on every topic that the county has discussed before, so it's a good meeting. That's all I have.
so, the managers meeting? Next week?
Yeah, if we went, follow the numbers, the district numbers that we
I was
were,
there last time, so.
I would be next.
You're next? Okay, and then we all, are all of us going to training next week?
I am.
Okay. Ted and Steve are, Dave, are you?
Yep.
Okay. Okay,
Just in case there's some disaster there and you guys all pass away, you gotta have at least a couple of commissioners left.
I would,
I'll keep that in mind.
yeah. I know Neil Galswick's intention, if you read the newsletter, is to provide a whole bunch more leadership training opportunities through AMC, so I would encourage you to look at those seriously and try to take advantage of that, because, you know, you're gonna have quite a few more opportunities than you might typically have.
Yeah, there's a couple coming up online. though.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple just came out, you know, one will be in at Sourcewell in May, that looks pretty interesting too, and it's just a one-day deal.
Yeah, I'm registered for that.
So
Anything
keep your
else?
eye on that.
Go ahead. Anything else? Okay, a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Okay, seconds, all in favor?